Our problem today is the USACO 2024 January contest silver problem 1 of Cowmpetency. So you can pause the video first and look at the problem yourself. And while you're reading this, I'm actually going to say that this specific problem is actually quite important to me and quite memorable because this specific problem is the first silver problem ever that I was able to fully solve in contest, which is kind of strange that it's the first one, considering that this is the fourth silver contest I ever had, and the first time I ever solved one fully. But I kind of suck, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just saying, I was able to solve all of this within, I think, 2 or 3 hours during this contest, and I was pretty excited about it at the time. But now that I think about it, this is actually a really easy problem. So hopefully you read the problem. So basically, Farmer John is hiring a new herd leader, and then he's interviewed N cows, and each cow has a Cowmpetency, meaning how good this cow is to be the leader. And he doesn't remember the exact Cowmpetency of these cows, but he does remember pairs of numbers AJ and HJ, where HJ was the first cow strictly greater Cowmpetency score than all cow from 1 through AJ. So those are the two important things. First one, and strictly greater. And now you're trying to determine the lexicographically smallest sequence of Cowmpetency score consistent with these pairs, AJ and HJ. And there's at most 10 to the 5th power cows. So you can pause the video once again and think about this yourself. All right, I assume you gave this problem a try. So first of all, this is actually a lot greedy again because it's lexicographically smallest. And as we know, lexicographical order is a lot like greedy because every time you try to make it the best locally, because if it's best locally, it's best globally. That's just how lexicographical order works, right? However, this is not easy greedy because it has to be the first one and it has to be strictly greater. So the most annoying part is by far the first one because think about it. If we have just several cows, we're going to use the height to represent the Cowmpetency, right? If we just have several cows like this, for every cow, we can just basically find the max of the first AI. Say this is AI is those cows, for this being H, we can just find a max out of AI, right? However, because it's the first one that's greater, we need to make sure that there's no other cow that's greater than AI. And since we can't really change much value in between, so say still this is AI and this is H, this is A, right? You want those two to be A, this is H, so this is the first one strictly greater than both of these, right? So this one is obviously greater than the greatest of the first AI, right? So we have to, if we don't decrease this, if we can't decrease this, we have to increase one of this or one of this, right? And we notice that the optimal strategy is always actually to increase this one rather than any other in this region because that's just how lexicographical order works. You want the earlier ones to be smaller. So now I have a strategy. Every time we just increase A, but does that work? Well, this problem is actually a lot more complicated than that. Because first of all, we want to make the last one greatest, but we might not be able to do that because this might be a fixed value, and then we have to go backwards and increase some more. And even more complicated, one H might have several A. We might have several A's here, so this just makes the situation a whole lot more complicated. So we have to observe some property before we just start greedy. So first property that we noticed is that if we consider A and H as the endpoints of a region, consider A as the L of the region and H as the R of the region, we notice that these regions never intersect. So I'm delete all of this to show you guys what I mean. So this is the number line. L and H as a region, L and H as a region. And if say we have a region right here that obviously intersect with this one, right? These two regions intersect, it would never work, right? Because this one wants to be the first one that's greater than all of those. However, this one wants, okay, I'm going to use a different color. This one wants to be a first that's greater than all of these. However, this one wants to be the first that's greater than all of these, right? And notice that in order for him to be the first one that's greater than all of those, this has to be also, change the color again, this one has to also be greater than all of these, right? It has to be greater than everything before it. Otherwise, it's not going to be the first one that's greater than this position. I don't know if you can understand, but essentially, for every H to be satisfied, it has to be the greatest from 1 to H. So this one has to be greater than every number in this region, including all of these numbers. And that contradicts with the claim of this number, obviously, because then it would not be the first one to be greater than all of those. So basically, we prove that these regions cannot intersect. And knowing that, first of all, we can know that, let me get back to the graph again, the graph with the height indicating the Cowmpetency. Okay, that's bad. We know that since regions don't intersect, let me recreate the graph. For this H, we can just increase AI without actually affecting any other region, because we know that either both H and A are less than some A over here, or there's just no other A and no other pairs behind H and A, right? Because there's no intersection. So increasing AI would not affect any other restrictions, any other pairs, H and A. So now the only thing we have to worry about anymore is two things. First of all, whether we can increase AI, and second of all, if H has several A's. So first thing, if one H corresponds to several A's, say one A right here and one A right here, one A right here, like three A's for one H, we want to always increase the size. We want to always increase the size of the smallest A. We want to make this one big enough, because if we make this one big enough, obviously this is within this A itself, obviously, and any other greater A for the same H. So increasing the maximum value for the smallest A also increase the maximum value for every other A. So knowing that, we always only process the smallest A, increasing its max, so that there's no other numbers before H that's greater than every number within A. Actually, H should be way taller than this. My bad. Let me change that. H should be way taller than this. Yeah. So now we know we always choose the smallest one. What if with the smallest region, what if the farthest one on the smallest region that we at first want to increase can't be increased? What if the value is fixed from the beginning? Well, then we have to start going backwards until we see the first one that's not fixed in the input, which will be indicated by a value of 0. 0 means that it has forgotten Cowmpetency, so we can adjust it, right? So, but doing so, actually going backwards and finding the first 0 will be way too slow. We'll have a time complexity of n squared, which is not acceptable for n being 10 to the 5th power. So we're going to use kind of like a prefix sum array, except we just basically keep track of the last position before every I that is 0. So now, basically the idea of this problem is to, first of all, for each H, we find the minimum AI, right? Because we know increasing the max of the minimum A also increase the max of every other A for that same H. And then secondly, we find the last value for this A that can be increased using the last array that we pre-processed. So let me show you my code for this implementation. Basically, we have several test cases. I hate several test case USACO problems. That's just speeding up the input. And then Q, right? Obviously, LA is pre-processing the last spot as we are able to increase, indicated by CI being 0, as we discussed. And these are just, since we already know that the regions are non-intersecting, we can increase the value of A without considering its effect on any other pairs H and A, because the regions are non-intersecting. And if the value is already set, obviously we go to LA. We go to the last spot that's increasable. And yeah, this code is actually really long, so I had a lot of comments in it explaining the code. So I will be posting this whole thing down in the comments below, and I would strongly recommend you checking it out after this video. All right, so basically this problem, Cowmpetency, is not that hard considering that I was able to solve it in contest. So basically, the first thing that we notice is that lexicographical order is basically greedy. So local best is global best. And second of all, we notice that regions have to be non-intersecting, as we already proved. And finally, we know that we always increase the smallest AI for all H, and we increase the latest possible within the smallest AI to make the max value big enough so that H is the first one to be strictly greater than even the smallest AI for this H. So I hope this video helped. Thank you for watching. All right, that was a problem review. So for the progress report of today, first of all, I once again went on the classic website of Logu and I found a few greedy problems to do just for fun, just to practice my greedy, because greedy is so important for silver. And after that, I actually mocked the 2023 US Open contest silver. And this is actually the first time that I mocked a silver contest that I took before. Because as you can see, I took that contest about 2 years ago, and my score was bad, but I mean not worse than the other two contests from last season. But this is still pretty bad considering the easiness of this contest, especially after I took this contest today and I got 807. Because I remember that after this contest 2 years ago, I didn't actually solve either of these three problems after the contest. I just kind of gave up on them. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I just thought USACO didn't really matter anymore after the season ended and just wanted to grind after before the next season. And you guys all know what happened the season after that. So, anyways, essentially, I didn't solve these three problems until today, and this one took me like 30 minutes. This one took me really long because it's actually kind of difficult, but I was still able to solve it it's a good problem. And the final one, I was not able to get full credit in the mock contest, but I was able to get more than half. And I think all three of these problems are pretty easy. So if January is this level, I probably got it. But I highly doubt that January will be this level, even though this is US Open and the one we're talking about is a January, but this is 2 seasons ago. You all know how much the difficulty increased by just from the one season, the 2023 to 2024, let along the 2023 to 2025. So, yeah, this doesn't really mean anything. I got 807, I'm pretty sure, which is way above the promotion, but um, I say I still need to work a lot more considering the increase in difficulty. All right. Thank you guys for watching. See you tomorrow.